All right, it's 1:30, so I guess we'll go ahead and get started. My name is Rob Burgess. I am the editor of the Wabash Plain Dealer in Wabash, Indiana here. I'm also the host of the podcast, The Rob Burgess Show. And I'm going to go ahead and let our panel introduce themselves here. Whoever wants to start first here.
Hi, I'm Andy Bauman. I'm with Faegre. I'm an evil lobbyist. I've had 3 years lobbying in the hallway, and then I did 13 with the state senate before that. And now I'm the board president for the Indiana Cannabinoid Alliance, and I'm happy to be here with everybody.
Hi, good afternoon. My name is Deborah Smith-Torrance. I own the Auspicious Wellness brand. I am a government contractor. I'm a WBE, a MBE. I'm a health coach and a life coach, and I believe in natural wellness, and that was the crux of us to be able to formulate a line and get it going.
Hey everybody, my name is Joe Linney. I am co-owner of Hoosier Hempster Dispensary. We've got an online retail and storefront in New Albany, Indiana. And we also did some farming back in 2019 and 2020 as a small hemp farm in southern Indiana as well.
So I had to laugh a little bit reading the description of the panel here. As a legal medical marijuana state with a widespread hemp industry, Midwest, yes, I think a lot of states in India or around us that would be well described, but Indiana, not so much. And I actually spoke here in 2019, and I was looking back at my notes then, and it turns out I didn't have to update them that much at all because not much has happened in the last 2 years. There's been about a dozen bills filed in the state legislature each year. They've kind of all fallen flat on their face. There's about the same number this year. The session is going right now. And I think Andrew and I were talking last night, and it seems like only one of those has survived in some form. I don't know. Maybe you could talk a little bit about the state of play, Andrew, just to kick us off here a little bit legislatively.
Yeah, to your point, it has been incredibly frustrating in that in the last 2 years we haven't seen a lot of movement. There's 13 bills put up this year, of which one went through and has already passed, and it's actually been signed by the governor, and that affects if you have used a THC product in a state where it's legal, and now you're in Indiana, and you're in a car accident through no fault of your own, but there's damage, they have to drug test you, and you could be caught with a felony even though person B is the one that actually hit you. So it's going into effect now, where you're actually protected for that, so it's a good baby step. Other than that, House Bill 1224, which was the infamous craft hemp bill that everybody here cares about, died Thursday. But there's an amendment that should be going in Monday on second readings in the House that if it goes through, it would bring that language back. Mm-hmm. So we finally have craft hemp flower again in the state, which is ridiculous since it's legal with the feds. But so there's that, and that's in Senate Bill 197. So watch for that Monday if you're interested. It'll be probably around 1-ish or 2-ish in the afternoon, and you can find them online at iga.in.gov. Senate Bill 197, and it should be an amendment by Rep. Teshka. So that's that. But yeah, it's been incredibly frustrating. They had 13 bills, most of which didn't get hearings for a myriad of reasons. But a lot of it goes back to like what Dr. Jarrett said yesterday morning. It's 1937 information. And it's just been unfortunate. So real quick, and then I'll be done. We'll move along. But if you live in Indiana, and hopefully y'all do, because then I can have you call into the reps, be respectful, be nice. They're like anybody else, but let them know that you would like this to be passed, mm-hmm. and we'd like to come back to the business.
Right. Yeah. I kind of wanted to go down the panel and kind of talk about what some of the constraints that has caused in your lives, kind of working in this field. I know that in other states, like we were talking about how the border stores are some of the most profitable things going, and people just drive any direction pretty much, except for south, I guess, at this point. But yeah, I just wanted to hear from you guys what the effect of this kind of not deregulation but regulation has had on your business here. So whoever wants to take that.
What we had on our business at first is labeling issues. So we wanted to get, and that's going to be, if you're going to buy from someone, if you're going to be a private label, if you're going to buy from a private label company, that's what we started out at first. And we kept telling them, they were in Illinois, we were in Indiana, and I kept telling them, you can't have it on the bottle as a dietary supplement because our rules were different from their rules because we're in two different states. And so I kept explaining this to them. And I told them, if you send me this and it has dietary supplement, either you give me my money back or you give me the correct labeling. So I also told them, in your state, it's not required to have a QR code on the bottle that's connected to the lab report. In our state, it is. So we had a fight about that. And I was like, well, you already know this is the last time I'm going to do business with you because I'm graduating up to do it myself. So we had to end up putting our own, actually pre-print a lot of QR codes out and put them on the bottle so we could be compliant in this state. So this is the most important thing that I can tell you, that I will tell you today. So I did some research. I've been doing some research as a government contractor. There's some things that we get to see that you may not see until later. And so we do know with the Department of Health and Human Services and also with the Department of Health and Human Services and the National Institute of Health, CBD with those two branches of the government is labeled as a supplement now. Okay, so once you move into supplement, then at that point, you can move into more stores, you can move into health food stores, you can do a lot more when you can put dietary supplement on the label. Then also, there are codes for CBD cannabinoid that can be used in the United States government that just came out in 2021 in the unspec codes that we have to use to be able to work with procurement officers through the federal government. This is the best information free you're going to get today. Trust me. That's what I have to say.
Well, that was excellent. So coming from a retail and online category, especially in Indiana, we've had some ups and downs with, the smokable hemp product ban, and that's, been pretty tough. My recommendations is, don't invest a lot of money into one certain thing. Kind of diversify yourself a little bit. Don't put all your eggs in one basket, and be willing to pivot at any point in time. The Delta 8 thing right now is pretty hot and heavy. However, that's subject to change as well. So, as far as regulations go, those are ever changing in the CBD and hemp market. And that's my advice, is just to be willing to pivot, kind of take a look at, hey, this could actually go away from me, and then what am I going to do in the future to help generate some more revenue whenever that source goes away?
Right. Expanding on that a little bit, when I was here in 2019, I don't remember that Delta 8, or maybe I wasn't paying attention, but that seems like a newer thing that has kind of come up.
Mhm.
Can you explain how that's legal exactly? I'm not maybe just ignorant to this point, but
Yeah.
maybe you could break that down a little.
Good question. So, obviously, I want to preface this by that I'm not an attorney or a lawyer. So, but during the Farm Bill and the other hemp bills that have been passed, they specifically focused on Delta 9 THC. So, Delta 8 THC being an isomer, meaning that chemically structured similar but different enough. That Delta 8 is in kind of a loophole status right now of how you can sell it. So it's kind of a loophole. It's kind of the elephant in the room because, people are like, hey, it's a THC product, and, we all get that. So that's something that's subject to change as well. In Indiana legislation, they're wanting to make just THC products, be illegal, which would include Delta 8 as well, or even Delta 10, which is coming up as well. So just, kind of, and more stuff coming. But yeah, you're absolutely right. That's the reason why you didn't hear about it before, because anytime you give someone some kind of regulation on if they can't make money and, maybe smokable hemp, they're going to find other avenues to do so.
Mm-hmm. Right. Yes.
Current working understanding is that because it's an isomer of the hemp plant,
Mm-hmm.
that it is legal under the 2018 Farm Bill, and that's kind of their murkiness.
Okay.
There's been some arguments on whether or not that's a legitimate argument,
Hmm.
and that's kind of where you're getting into. So, like in the state with that Senate Bill 197 I just mentioned, there's another amendment that would make it So basically, they snuck a committee amendment in like a week ago
It was a week ago.
that on a committee vote, so there's not even like a record of this,
Oh, whoa.
that basically made any isomer of or THC products, so they're basically backdooring Delta 8,
Huh.
has to be 0.3% or less, which would essentially disqualify
Yeah.
at that point.
Right.
And so there's another amendment Teshka's doing that'll help that. But yeah, Delta 8's definitely under attack right now in the state. It doesn't help to, real quick, I'm going to get on a soapbox, when you have people that do these ads on Facebook or online, and if I'm attacking you, I'm sorry, but I need you to think long-term strategy for me so we can all win. Don't do ads saying it's a legal high, because the reason we're having all these legal fights right now, literally, is those ads in the New York Times article. And it's because you have people that want to make a couple quick bucks, which I 100% understand, but it's really not doing us any favors right now at all. And that's as nice as I can say it in public. So please stop doing that. Like, tell your people whatever you want to tell them, but like, we can't run ads where you're like, this is legal high that the cops don't know about, and then you wonder why they have legislation targeting us like 2 weeks later. That's kind of what's going on. So that's something to keep in mind too, is think about how you, if you sell these products, how you represent them and where you, and things like that, and be smart. Like, we're a burgeoning industry, so there's a lot of eyes on us. It's not fair, but that's how it is. So just keep those things in mind as we progress. Sorry.
Then also too, that's very important that we stress. We have a perfectly beautiful industry in cannabinoid molecules. And so I'm saying cannabinoid molecules because there's more than just CBD. There's a lot of other cannabinoids that actually help us, with things that we have with our immune system and immune health. Okay, but when you look at, I'm not an advocate of I'm not an advocate. I'm on the other side. I'm not a true advocate of the what do you call that? The 8, the 9, and the 10. The Delta 8, 9, and 10. And the only reason why I'm not is because I fear what happened with the vaping industry when they put in the vitamin C, when they put that in. Okay, so we have a lot of cowboy chemists that are out here that are not regulated. They're not getting lab tests put on their products. They're not grown organically. Is it grown in the ground? Is it grown in organic soil? Is it inside of a greenhouse? Is it done under the right lights? Is it done under the proper irrigation system? What watering system are you using? Are you using the proper type of water? You're just using water out of a hose. There's a lot that goes into this when you're going to be buying something and bring it to market. And when you bring it to market, you're just as responsible because you put it on your shelf. You put it on your shelf. So you're responsible. So that's the things that I look at, because so many different people are doing so many different things. It's impossible to know who's doing right and who's doing wrong, because it's not mandated that they're got to get lab tests. And then you got labs out here that'll damn near say anything that you want them to say just so they can get your money. So we need to discover who all these crooked labs are so that we could put them on the side, because then you got the good guys like us up here that are advocating for the right stuff in the industry. I'm not against the Delta 8. I'm against the process of the Delta 8, of all of these cowboys that want to make a quick buck off of people, but they're not thinking about, is this healthy? But now you got kids ending up in the hospital all over again. Now you have police going in raiding places. Now you got kids looking for a different kind of high. And so what is it doing to their membranes, to their cells in their brain? Are we cooking these kids' brains? So I want you to walk away with shock therapy today. Are you responsible? That's it.
I would definitely agree on that, and kind of elaborate a little bit more on, it's all about education and then being connected and going to events like this and networking as much as you can. There's a great resource that I'm a part of. I'm on their economic task force called the Midwest Hemp Council. Justin Swanson, he's president of the Midwest Hemp Council, and then he's also an attorney. So they're always going to bat for us, and they're trying to get the smokable hemp flower ban overturned, and they'll go to the bat for us on other things too. But that's what it's about. It's about education and bringing that awareness to people, and going to events, as many events like this as you can, to get the knowledge that you need, so that way you can make proper decisions going forward.
Right. Well, and then Andrew and I were kind of talking about this last night, speaking to people that might be natural allies, but coming at them in the right way. What experiences or advice would you give to kind of change people's minds about this from a regulatory standpoint? Because I don't feel like this has to be a partisan issue. You know what I mean? It can cut across all ideologies, I think, if you just talk about it or present it the right way. So I just kind of want to get your thoughts about that.
Yeah, 100%. It is a bipartisan issue. And as we spoke yesterday, what's fascinating to me over the last couple of years, talking to these legislators, and I can speak on Indiana, is that anecdotally, a lot of them support this, but they don't want to fight a governor's veto. But the problem is that we need more, and I wouldn't say celebrities because their opinions aren't super important in the long run, but more like business owners and people that, I mean, we all love celebrities, right? Like, I'm not trying to dog them, but you know, if someone like Willie Nelson's like, you should use cannabis, well, yeah, duh, I knew where he was coming from, right? But if you have like Bill Gates or some big business person that you're used to seeing in business attire and you use as a voice of authority, right? If they come out and they take that risk, and that's a problem that a lot of them won't take so far, even though I know many of these people that do use various cannabis products, right? But they won't come out, and it's all wink and a nod and a handshake, you know, at one of these on the street. But we need more business people and people that are non-stereotypical cannabis users to come out and talk about its uses. But then you also need to have like a two-pronged attack, kind of like what we talked about yesterday, where you need to hit them initially, the legislators, with anecdotal like stories. Like, this is how it helped me with like thyroid cancer or Crohn's disease or something. But then once you get their attention is when you hit them with the data. And it's something that I forgot your name, but the doctor earlier, she had mentioned, and it's something we've heard multiple times. Different doctor, but yeah, they've all mentioned is we need more data, and there's not a lot of good data. And then in another one, they said out of what 6,000 studies, 66 were legitimate. That actually blew my mind a little bit ago. So if you're sitting by me, sorry, because I had an outburst. But like that, but out of 6,000 studies, 66 are usable. That's ludicrous. And so we need to get more studies. We need more data. But I would argue, and this is where I disagree with some people, you hit them with the personal story first to get their attention because that's what they can use because it's all politics. And then once you get your attention, you hit them with the data. That's how I would do it. But we need more. To answer your question in the longest way possible, I'm sorry,
Please.
is that you need more non-stereotypical people. You don't want the athletes and like the musicians because that's a prime group. You would want like your business people, your community leaders, non-stereotypical users to come out and say, I support this and this is why, and then have good reasons. That'd be.
That's fair.
And to really, back up what he's saying, he's 100% right because it happened to me. I got a request from the Legislative Caucus in Georgia to come down. It wasn't really a request, it was a demand. And I had one day to get there where all the senators, it was the Black Caucus, where all the sitting senators, junior senators, and state representatives and judges. And I had to panel in front of them, and I had to explain how CBD works. I had to educate them that CBD and THC were not the same thing. I had to educate them on how to properly say the scientific wording for it. I had to talk to the chief of police, and educate his people on how to understand that you can't how to legally regulate without taking things from people and them coming back suing you later. I had to do that. And I backed it up with double-blind placebos and studies. I went home again. I got another demand to come back to the judge's chamber. I didn't even know these people, and but they called, you get here. And it was always one day, just in one day. And so then I said, so when is it? It's tomorrow. We need you here. So then I go to Fulton County Courthouse in Georgia, and I have to sit down in the front of a whole room full of judges, and I had to give them the data on how CBD should replace methadone, which is going to. Okay, so then I had to get on that and work with that. Then I had to supply all the science, and I had to work with that. So once I supplied all the science behind it, double-blind placebo studies, and I was able to show that the perspiration rate was down after taking CBD and demonstrated to be the efficacy was there, and the cravings were taken down. And this was for opioids because the methadone doesn't work. It's just another high. So by this time, then they said, okay, now you got to come to the national conference. And I was like, okay, wait a minute. Okay, hold up, stop. I need to be able to run my business. I need to be able to do this. And so now because of that, I became an advocate without even knowing. They pushed me into advocacy without asking me to be an advocate. But these are the things, the fights that we have to do behind the door. When they call you, you can't tell them no. And then you just can't. And so then I ended up in government. And I'm like, okay, well, what is this? So this is how it goes. And it's true. We have to fight the good fight, and we have to stay on the side of what's right. And we need your help. So if you're in this room and you're going to be doing Delta 8, start asking the right questions. Is it tested by a lab? What certifications do you hold? Do you hold the proper certificate? And then go and find out what lab certifications need to be held in the state that you're in, that you're going to sell in. Not taking it across the state lines, but what is it in my state? So you can be on the right side of compliance. That's what I have.
Yeah, that's absolutely correct. And, you've actually demonstrated a nice transition there of like starting small and then like building up from there, because like first it starts with yourself and educating yourself, and then you can educate your local community. And then all that kind of spreads, right? Sometimes we think of things too big, national level. Yeah, marijuana may be legalized on the national level, but is it going to be in our state? Probably not. So, we just have to kind of stair step it, look at it from a local, hyper local level, and start educating the people in our area, doctors, lawyers, politicians, things of that nature. But we've got to first be very educated ourselves and be willing to learn more and more as we go.
Right. Well, thank you for mentioning the national level. That was kind of where I wanted to take it next. I'm going to ask you to be prognosticators now and kind of think a few years out. What do you think federally this will look like? Because like we were talking last night, Andrew, a lot of the states, including Indiana, I think are kind of waiting for some federal action before they take any kind of plunge. So just your best guess, ballpark, what do you think the next few years look like on the federal level?
I think realistically, you'll see a ACA-like push with the national Ds to get some sort of significant legislation in before the midterms. I will cautiously remain optimistic, but I don't have a lot of faith in that because I just don't trust the feds, frankly. They've had a long time to deal with this and they haven't. But I think you will see a push in the next 2 years to at least decriminalize on a national level, which doesn't really help us as a state, frankly. It's a good baby step, I suppose, but it doesn't help, frankly, because Indiana could still drag their heels a la craft hemp, which we're looking at literally right now. And so you're just going to see that cycle again. I think nationally, though, probably realistically 2 to 3 years. Okay. And then Indiana would probably be a year or so after that, and then it might take them up to a year to spool up and actually start selling those products. So I think realistically, positive answer would be 2, but Holcomb won't sign anything until the feds get rid of it, and so we got 3 more years of him. So that math doesn't quite work, but I would say 2 to 4 probably is optimistic.
Okay. Any guesses or?
I'm thinking, let's go back again. Is this for the cannabis, right? Mm-hmm. Okay, in terms of the cannabis, I'm thinking along the lines of him as well, because a lot of people don't even know how to separate that cannabis is just a cannabinoid. It's just one cannabinoid. And they don't know how to separate that out. And so a lot of the people that do have to do the legislation, they may need to have a bit more information, efficacy, and things of that nature. And we have to get it in front of them. So if we want them to do it, we have to do it as a collective. Like, it's going to take you all. It's going to take us. It's going to take us all to keep. If you want something, what do? You protect it. If you want something and you want to bring something to market, you bring it to market knowing that it's going to be valuable, why it's valuable, who can use it, is it safe to use? These are the things that we're going to have to be able to do and convince them of if we want them to legislate it in the favor of being able to sell. That's what we have to do. We have to build the efficacy, and it's going to take you all, not some cowboy chemistry. Oh yeah, if you want to get high, this is another way just for you to go and get high. Okay, so then you have to think about, you got boys on the, you have guys that sell under the table and things like that. Then you got this other group over here that are cowboy chemistry, and they found a way to get through because of the farm bill. But so then you're making all the legislators mad because all we're talking about is high. We're not talking about any health benefits. We're not talking about anything that makes sense to them. So obviously they're going to turn down everything that goes in front of them, and you need to help.
Yeah, she's absolutely right. And, obviously none of us have a crystal ball as far as that, legalization goes. But I mean, if you're looking at a business that's, heavily revenue generated, obviously marijuana is going to be it. But you know what? Hemp flower is great too. It's 300, 400,000, $1 million business in the United States. I've done some economics on it, and just in Indiana alone, I mean, it could be anywhere from 90 to $100 million just for hemp flower. And a lot of I've heard, this through speaking with people, that marijuana lobbyists are lobbying against hemp flower. A lot of states, they're lobbying against hemp and hemp flower because guess what? It's cutting their into their revenue and their money as well. So there's a lot of industries fighting against, but it's all about the education. So if we've got a legislator that's got a lobbyist from maybe a pharmaceutical company, always giving them the education, then that's all they know. That's all they know. So whenever we can reach out and be, either face to face with them or get on some panels or speak with those people at a local level, that's how we can make those great changes.
Right. Definitely want to leave time for questions. I definitely have more questions myself, but if anyone had any questions you wanted to ask our panel here, feel free to, I guess there's a microphone in the back, or they're coming around. So anyone that has anything.
It was just a quick question about the website that you were talking about for the Senate bill. What website was that? Or the?
Yeah, no, it's the state website.
Okay.
Sorry, I get talking fast. I get excited.
It's cool.
It's IGA. It's like Indiana General Assembly. .in .gov, and I should have waited. That'll take you to a splash page, right? And so it'll have like a Senate link and a House link, and on that you can find your bills. You can search for bills specifically. You can look up committee information. You can find your specific legislator or their staff. It's a great resource. And if you have issues, find me and I'll give my contact. I'm happy to help you out with that.
But this is specifically for the state of Indiana?
Yes.
Okay.
And then what you do is you would search for the committee, or what you do is you watch House Chamber, because there'll be like a hamburger thing on the right side. Okay. It'll be House Chamber, and then you'll have a camera symbol, and you can click on that, and it'll be at like 1:30 on Monday when they go into session. But they may caucus because they like to hear their voice more than I like to hear mine. And so they may be gone for a little bit, but anytime after like 1:30, it could be live. And then they could.
I'm not from Ohio. I mean, I'm not from Indiana, but I want to watch it.
Oh yeah, no, it's all good. So they have cameras, so anybody can watch it at any time if you're bored.
In Indiana, who do you find is the most amiable to this? And if you can give us their name, we can maybe help chat them up.
Now you're putting me on the spot.
If is this still on? If anybody wants more information or wants to stay plugged into the Midwest, kind of like the hemp scene, check out Midwest Hemp Council. They are a valuable resource. They're going the battle for, like I said, all the various things that we have the fight over. They're going at it from a legal perspective and political perspective as well. And you can kind of see what's going on in the Midwest, Indiana. They give updates on every single bill, who to reach out to talk to people on a legislative level as well.
To answer your question, I would say probably Karen Talion, but that answer is none. So every answer I'm going to give is going to have an asterisk. So it's good for my profession, I suppose. The problem with her is that she's a Democrat in a uniparty system in Indiana. So Indiana is essentially run by the Republicans minus the big cities. So even though she's the most reasonable, the most educated, and has been fighting for this issue for 15 years, she doesn't always get played because she's in the minority. Then you have Jim Lucas, who's a House Republican, and he's a super nice guy, but he's kind of a loose cannon, if I'm honest. And I get along with him, but like if he's the face guy for your legislation, realistically, it's not going to go anywhere. Yeah, and it's not to denigrate him or his passion. It's just like that's the way the game is. So I'd say Messmer in the Senate. He's the number 2 in the Senate. He's been pretty supportive. In the House, Eberhart. There's a handful: Eberhart, Judy. If you look on like any of the co-sponsors in like 1224, those would be good ones, or any of those. If it was more, I would start there. Eberhart, yeah. But and just like he said, getting involved is huge too. So whether it's with the Midwest Hemp Council or the Indiana Cannabinoid Alliance or whatever other interest group, just getting involved with those groups and just personally contacting your legislator real quick. Don't use a form letter; they're worthless. 100% worthless. The only thing they're good for is letting people know that there's a vague group of people that somewhat care about an issue enough to sign their name on it. When I was a staff member, we'd see, I'm not trying to be a jerk, but like we'd see form letters, you'd make a quick note, you'd move along. What you really got to do is like a personal letter using your own words, and don't have it match anybody else. And you'll get a lot more play. And don't be afraid to call and write. Don't just sit on one. Hit them up because they work for you, and they're there for it, and their staff is too, and they're mostly good people.
Also, if you're writing letters to the editor of a newspaper, the form letters, don't do it. Yeah, same thing. I'll get like 10 like the exact same. It's like, wow, you all have the exact same idea at the same time. Interesting. Was there anyone else that had a question here? Going the opposite of what you asked, we talked about this a little bit last night too. When I've written about this before, Karen Talion kind of told me that the Prosecutors Council was the biggest kind of roadblock. Is that your experience, the biggest group that's kind of fighting in the opposite direction, or what groups have you run up against when you've been working in this field?
Yeah, prosecutors. If you had to single out a group, it would be the prosecutors, and then to a lesser extent, the state police liaisons that testify. But I don't want to include the full state police in that. Anecdotally, and they'd probably deny it if we put them on the spot, the vast majority of them couldn't care less about this. As long as you're not moving like multiple pounds, they don't care. And that's based on multiple conversations I've had with them over the last like 5-10 years. But instead you have, I can't think of his last name, Hoffetz, I think his name is, or something, that testifies, and he's super against it because they have issues with road testing, and they can't differentiate craft hemp from cannabis plants. Although it's kind of a moot argument pretty soon. Mm-hmm. But that's one of their arguments. But really, it's the prosecutors that have been actively fighting to kill this for a long time. And then there's a few legislators that are actively going against their history of agriculture and now are campaigning against it for some reason that remains to be seen.
Mm-hmm. Okay. And then kind of going to the fiscal side of it, do you see that as a good way to get some people who might have hesitancy? Because, I mean, we are an agricultural state, and it just seems so counterintuitive that this is such a big stumbling block here. I mean, look how much, corn and soybeans and all that. So do you see that as an effective route?
To an extent. Well, if you would have asked me like 5 years ago, I would have said it was a bigger factor. But look at, the hemp industry, too. Mm-hmm. As you said, it's a couple $100 million. And they won't let you sell flower, which is like half the industry.
Right.
So I think the way that I would play it, if you hired me to rep you in this, is what I would do is first you'd find like the moms like you did for the CBD fight with the kids with the intractable seizures, and you hit them with those type of personal stories. Or like for me, I had my thyroid removed in January, right? So I might talk to them about like cancerous things and how that I actually was very blessed and didn't have nausea and issues like that. But like you would do that. Right? Or you hit them with the personal stories first. Because one, that's what they can turn around and use for their own propaganda, if we're honest. Two, they connect with that because it's a personal story, and they see data sheets all the time. Like anytime there's a bill that costs money, there's another form that's literally LSA that goes through and tells you, here's the taxes, here's what the state's going to. So they see these numbers all the time, and they just like buzz out. And so what I would do is initially, and you feel free to disagree, but I would hit them with personal stories first. And then I would hit them with the data and have that data, whatever you have, where you could say like, but then you got to be careful, as we've seen with the FDA, because if you make, nebulous health statements, they'll come after you in a heartbeat, and that's when you really get in some trouble. So you might talk about how Delta 8 might have better antiemetic properties for nausea than Delta 9, perhaps. That could be one thing, but you'd also have to give it a healthy asterisk. But I would again, and I'm sorry for kind of rambling, I would put personal story first, then data. That's how I would do it, is a 1-2, and then get communities involved because they need to understand that their non-traditional users are the vast majority of users. It's not a bunch of white folks with dreadlocks and like Bob Marley t-shirts, right? It's not. It's business people. It's everybody, frankly. And so we have to make sure they understand that, and they don't always, because a lot of it's still that 1937 reefer madness, unfortunately.
Mhm.
Did I hit it at all? So I was like everywhere.
No, you're absolutely right. I mean, whenever it comes down to, it's those one-on-one conversations or, small group conversations that we can have because we have to watch how we say illness states online of, if someone even on Facebook says, oh my gosh, this CBD really helped out with my anxiety or my what have you, throw in whatever disease there. And if it goes to your website, then your payment processor could potentially shut you down due to regulators. It's a really gray area there. You have to watch what you say on your online, what kind of even reviews you get as far as a retail level. But then, it really all comes back down to the perfect sales pitch, appealing to emotion and a logic pretty much at the same time. So what he's talking about, appealing to that emotion so that way they're engaged, and then give them that data so that it appeals to the logical brain as well at the same time.
I gotta jump in real quick. I'm sorry before ADD will kick in. I'll forget. Remember how you represent yourself when you go into, to piggyback on our combo. And I'm sorry, and I'll be real quick. There's a guy that used to come in when I worked for the Senate, and he's well known. And I'm not going to dog him because he's done a lot of good stuff for the cause. But he would literally hotbox blunts on the way to the state Senate, and then would meet with the most conservative caucus in the state house and try and talk cannabis reform. Well, you show up reeking like, you're not going to get anywhere. And so this happened all the time. So what I would say very briefly while I was thinking about it is when you talk to your members, like bear in mind how you represent yourself. Like if I'm off the clock, I'm probably wearing a tank top, right? I'm not going to wear that to the state house. I probably shouldn't wear it anyways. But and so like think about how you represent yourself and you carry yourself when you talk to these folks. But also don't host them on a huge pedestal either because they're just random citizens. They're business people or parents, moms and dads and stuff. So sorry. Getting up. Welcome to my TED Talk.
No problem. What we do know, in terms of the financial institutions, there are more processors now that are willing to take on CBD clients. It used to be you used to have a to be able to use their platform for processing. But now they're after brands and they'll come and talk to you. Some of them have even been here at the conference. So if you're having a problem getting processors, use EMB processors. I'm giving you some information. You could get EMB to do your processing. They will do it. They process mines. I also use Square. Square, I'm a beta tester for Square, so they may tell you no, but EMB will help you. And then authorized.net, and the reason why I gave you EMB, because with EMB, they team with authorized.net for your online processing. So authorized.net, and then the payment gateway will again go back to EMB. So there's different ways for you to navigate, but then they will look at what you have on your website, what you're selling. The Delta 8 is not there yet, but the CBD is there. Okay, so these are some little loopholes to help get you through if you're going to be processing at your booth and your CBD, because a lot of the banks will turn you down and say, we can't do that for you. But these are boys that have been around for a long time. They're trusted, and they're as a trusted source in banking, FDIC accredited, and these are things that we need and want. So hopefully that will help you with that part.
I know that banking was, last time I was here, was a huge issue, and there's been some movement, I assume, in the last.
It's movement.
Okay.
Yep.
I did get a call from I did get a call from our bank, and they process over $100,000 a month in sales, and they'll take you then, and they'll say, okay, well, would you like for us to? Well, no, it's for just CBD, and then we can do it. But no, that's not a way for us to do it. We want to stay CBD. We want to legitimize the industry, and we want to know who's on our team and who we can work with to be able to help us further legitimize the industry, as long as we're good stewards of the industry and doing it right.
Okay. I've just a few minutes left here. I wanted to make sure I had anyone else with questions or anything. Nope. Good. Oh, any final thoughts you want to leave the people with in the last few minutes here?
Could we talk about the medical side?
Please do.
What we
Yeah.
talked about. Okay. So now we want to kind of talk about the medical side, that a lot of people, that's the reason why we're doing what we're doing, because we want to say, well, why are you doing it? Are you doing it just to make money, or are you doing it because you have a passion to help other people? So your passion would be about helping other people. Epigenetics. What is epigenetics? Epigenetics is when you can put genes, disease cells into a dormant state. And you do it through, and they're looking at plant-based things. And CBD has the benefit of being able to do that. It's been studied. If you're going to be able to sell, if you want to sell something, figure out why you're go to the National Institute of Health.gov. It's online, and put in CBD, put in hemp, so that you can better educate yourself. So when you do talk to a legislator, you have something, you have some type of efficacy to give to them. So go to the health side and then come to the legal side. That would be the best way to get started.
So, brand. So I get something ordered in Australia or London or what have you, right? So who is who's carrying that liability? Is it me because it's legal and I'm shipping it, or is it the person that's actually receiving it in that other country? Or has anybody approached or been any kind of customs or any kind of import-export dilemmas because of this? You look up CBD in Central America, whatever, any kind of country. Well, it's legal there, but it's not legal to sell it.
Well,
so if I ship it over there, who's the
okay.
carrying the liability there?
So number one is what ports, the number one thing, because I've done it too. So number one thing is, what ports are you going to be going to? What ports? And then in those countries, those ports, then is it legal here? Is it legal in this port? Is it legal in that port? Okay, that's number one. But generally, the best way to do it is just because you get a lot of scammers too. So be careful. And they'll say, we want to pay you to get this in and get this in. And then they get your money, they get your product. And then you find out 12, 15 days later that this was somebody's bank account that was hijacked. So what you want to do is tell them, hey, listen, this is what I'll do for you. I'll get everything together and I'll get all of my certifications that I need to be able to give to your shipper, but you set up shipping. The best thing I can do is get it to the port. You're responsible to get it to you. And when that cuts out all the bull crap. And if they want it, they'll get it. They'll pay for the transportation. They'll set up all of the agencies, things that need to be set up to get it transported to their country. And then the earnings is off you because you've done what's legal in your country. You don't have time to worry about the rest of the countries.
So the second part of that is, what about the airlines? Right? I mean, you fly with you have a few thousand gummies in your book bag. I mean, is there an issue with that, or
well, are you flying? Okay, so number one, if you're flying with some gummies in your book bag, are they bottled?
They're bagged for wholesale.
Okay, so that's not going to work. That's just not going to work. They should be bottled. That's about keeping our industry safe. They should be bottled. They should be in a bottle with a label on it, with a QR code on it. So if they say, okay, well, because they can't say if it's legal. You can't even say at that point if it's legal or not because it's not in that bottle.
So if it's packaged properly and you fly with, I mean, has anybody had any experience with the regulation and legalization of
cross? Is the COA on the packaging?
Yeah.
Okay. Is the lab report connected?
Sure.
Okay, so then you can fly with it.
As long as it's below minimum, maximum. I mean,
is it below 0.3%?
Sure.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
All right. Well, I think that's about our time, but thank you all for joining us. I appreciate it. Thank you to our panel. Let's give a round of applause. Appreciate it. Thank you so much.